There is a stage in the journey of the soul that very few dare to name. Carl Jung once hinted that, at some point, the light of the empath will no longer be enough to keep them whole. When sacrifice reaches its limit, when wounds pile up into mountains, that light begins to merge with darkness. And in that very moment, a new power is born. If you have ever been the place where others unload their pain, if you have ever traded your own peace just to be their lifeline, then you will understand. The exhaustion that seeps into your bones, the unspoken resentment, and the feeling that, I cannot go on like this anymore. That is not failure. It is the sign that you are approaching a metamorphosis, transforming from someone who only gives in to someone who holds both light and darkness within the same being. In this video, I will guide you through that journey, from the initial sacrifices to the breaking point, and then the moment when the empath awakens and becomes a force society can no longer ignore. Stay until the end, because only by seeing the whole picture will you discover the message meant just for you. And if you find value in this journey, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell. This is only a small part of a greater series designed to help you step out of old cycles and reach the inner freedom you truly deserve. Part 1. The empath in the light. Before darkness appears, the journey of the empath always begins in the light. That light is not the blazing brilliance of fireworks, but a gentle, humble glow that slips into the hidden corners of other people's souls. The empath enters life as if born to heal. They are the listener when the world is loud, the shoulder to lean on when others turn away, the small but tireless candle that guides others through the long night. This journey may sound noble, but it hides a cruel truth. Their light is rarely valued for what it truly is. Society needs emotional shelters, vessels to hold anxiety, anger, and fear, and the empath becomes the perfect target. They are gentle, easily moved, always ready to sacrifice. And those very qualities, praised as beautiful, turn them into an endless container for the darkness of others. Carl Jung once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." In this stage of light, the empath is often unaware of their own darkness. They believe that if they just keep giving, loving, and sacrificing, they will hold the world together. Yet in trying to extinguish other people's darkness with their own light, they unknowingly allow that same darkness to seep back into themselves. Imagine a clear river that constantly receives waste from every direction. At first, it still appears calm, still nourishes the fields on both banks, but little by little, the riverbed grows murky. Outsiders may not notice, but the water is no longer pure. So it is with the empath. In the light they radiate, darkness silently settles, accumulates, and waits for the day it rises. The childhood of many empaths proves this truth most clearly. A child who knew how to listen before they learned to speak. A child who sensed the tension in a room and adjusted their behavior to avoid an outburst. A child who became the family peacemaker, the little angel comforting the mother, appeasing the father, carrying burdens far too heavy for their age. And from this a belief is formed. My worth lies in making others comfortable. But such a belief, however noble it seems, is a chain. It makes the empath a resistor, absorbing the chaotic currents of society while slowly wearing themselves out. They become accustomed to placing the needs of others above their own. They are taught that saying no is selfish, setting boundaries is cruel, loving oneself is wrong, and so they carve pieces of themselves away to maintain the image of the savior in the eyes of the world. This is the tragedy of one-sided light. That light may be warm, but it is easily exploited. It attracts those who live in darkness, narcissists, manipulators, energy vampires, like moths drawn to a flame, and each time the light dims a little more. The empath in the light may not yet see this truth. They believe they are fulfilling a mission. They trust that by endlessly giving, they are making the world better. But deep within the unconscious, a seed of imbalance is planted. Jung called it the unrecognized shadow. the part denied, suppressed, rejected as unacceptable. And once that shadow gathers enough energy, it becomes a turning point, because light without protection cannot last forever. And that is why, behind the gentle glow, a metamorphosis is already waiting. Part 2. The accumulation of darkness. Light never disappears all at once. It erodes gradually, day by day, moment by moment. Empaths rarely notice this process because they are too accustomed to hiding their exhaustion behind gentle smiles, soothing words, and the nod of "I'm fine," even when they are breaking inside. But darkness does not let go. It seeps into them through repeated experiences, being exploited, being dismissed, being endlessly demanded of. Imagine a glass vessel filled with clear water, into which drops of black ink are constantly poured. At first, the water remains transparent, only slightly tinted, but over time each drop settles, accumulates, and slowly turns the entire vessel murky. The empath is that vessel. They take in not only joy, but also pain, anger, and fear from others. They become the storage container for collective emotions. Carl Jung emphasized, the shadow does not vanish when we deny it. It becomes more dangerous because it is hidden. For the empath, this darkness is not only their own, but also the residue of countless others they have rescued. Each manipulator planted seeds of self-doubt within them. Each narcissist poured emptiness into them, turning them into a free source of energy. Every toxic relationship left a thin layer of dust, until the inner light became obscured. The empath begins to feel familiar signs: persistent exhaustion. Sleep no longer restores them. Rest days cannot erase the fatigue. Erosion of faith. The belief that giving will bring receiving turns into an open wound, making them more bitter than ever. The rising question: why am I always here for everyone, but when I need someone, no one stays for me? This is not negativity or immaturity, as many would label it. This is the knock of darkness, a reminder that one-sided light cannot protect you. The shadow within the empath begins to take form. It is not a monster waiting to devour them, but a part long abandoned and rejected. It is the voice of anger swallowed down. It is the resentment of being exploited without daring to fight back. It is the guilt felt every time they set a boundary, to the point they trick themselves into believing that self-love is selfishness. Jung called this the compensatory mechanism of the unconscious. When consciousness lives too far to one side, the unconscious automatically creates the opposite to restore balance. The more the empath clings to the image of pure light, the more the unconscious accumulates darkness to remind them that wholeness only comes when both light and shadow coexist. This accumulation does not remain hidden in psychology alone, it manifests in daily life. The empath grows irritable over small things. They bristle at being given yet another responsibility. They realize they no longer respond to familiar cries for help, and sometimes they despise themselves for not being as kind as before. But this is not corruption, it is a sign that the vessel is full and any additional drop will overflow. Society does not teach empaths how to face this darkness. Society needs them to keep playing the role of free healer. So when they begin showing fatigue, they are often judged, weak, selfish, you've changed. Yet, in truth, this is only a transitional stage, like the darkest hour before dawn. The greatest danger lies not in the darkness itself, but in the empath being forbidden to name it. Without language to express their anger, resentment, and loss, everything is pushed deeper down, and one day it will break through every barrier, forcing them into a journey with no way back, the journey of shadow integration. Part 3. The breaking point. Light and darkness merge. There comes a moment that no one can escape, the moment when the empath's vessel of emotions finally overflows. It does not arrive with a violent explosion, but as a silent tremor that begins deep within the marrow of their bones. All the years of sacrifice, every suppressed cry, every hidden wound condense into a massive force, waiting to break through the walls of consciousness. And once it rises, the inner world of the empath will never be the same again. This breaking point is often mistaken for collapse. Outsiders may see someone once gentle suddenly become cold, someone who once gave freely now erecting firm boundaries. But on a deeper level, this is not corruption, it is rebirth. Carl Jung called it the dark night of the soul, the moment when the old self dissolves to make space for a larger being, one that contains both light and shadow. In this moment, the emotions once buried return like spirits demanding justice. Anger is no longer silenced, resentment is no longer restrained. The empath begins to see the raw truth, that they have allowed themselves to become an emotional dumping ground, that unconditional love has been twisted into supply for those who live in darkness. This realization, though painful, is the knife that cuts through the veil of illusion. Jung once warned, when consciousness clings too tightly to an idealized image, the unconscious will unleash shadow to shatter it. The empath had clung to the image of the healer, the endlessly gentle one, and now the unconscious forces them to confront the parts they ignored, the part that knows how to say no, the part that knows how to be angry, the part that knows how to strike back when attacked. This is the merging of light and darkness, no longer two separate poles, but complementary forces. The empath realizes that love has no value without boundaries, gentleness cannot last without the strength to protect it, and compassion becomes truly profound only when paired with the ability to recognize and stop manipulation. This moment is like metal placed into the furnace. The extreme heat melts away its old form, but also opens the possibility of becoming something new, sharper, stronger, more resilient. The empath, after passing through this breaking point, can emerge as metal forged in fire, a being who knows both how to love and how to protect, how to heal and how to confront. Of course, this stage is chaotic. Many empaths feel as though they are no longer themselves. They are unsettled by sudden bursts of anger, cold thoughts, urges to withdraw from relationships. Yet in truth, this is only transformation. A caterpillar cannot become a butterfly without breaking the cocoon. The empath cannot mature without giving their shadow a place to stand. The most important thing in this moment is awareness. If the empath believes they are becoming bad, they will suppress the shadow again, and the cycle of suffering will continue. But if they dare to face it, to admit, yes, within me there is anger, resentment, and the power to resist, then the shadow ceases to be an enemy and becomes an ally. The merging of light and darkness does not turn the empath into a monster. It transforms them into a whole being. They are no longer just a mirror reflecting the light of others, but a double-sided mirror. One side radiates love, the other forces the wicked to face their own darkness, and that is the turning point. The empath is no longer merely a victim of shadow, but begins to master it. Part 4. A new power. The ability to see through and protect justice. When light and darkness have merged, the empath steps out of their own threshold carrying a completely new kind of power. No longer pure light, no longer absolute darkness, but the union of both. A being capable of holding contradictions without being torn apart. And from that union arises a rare ability. The power to see through. This ability does not come from books nor from accumulated knowledge, but from years of living inside the skin of others. Empaths have been unconsciously trained in the harshest of schools, the school of pain, manipulation, and betrayal. Every narcissist who once gaslighted them left behind a map of gaslighting. Every time they were exploited, they learned how kindness can be weaponized. Every wound became data that their unconscious mind processed, stored, and transformed into intuition. This is why they can sense someone's true motives even without evidence. They know when a smile is genuine and when it is only a mask. They hear the hidden meaning beneath a compliment and feel the envy disguised as care. As Jung once described, it is the gaze that sees through the mask of the persona to the shadow within. This power makes them no longer so easily manipulated. Words that once made them tremble now sound like childish tricks. The old tactics of narcissists, silent treatment to punish, weakness to lure, are now nothing more than scripts already memorized. The empath has become the reader of the script rather than the actor trapped inside it. But this ability to see through does not stop at self-protection. It awakens a new function, the protection of justice. The empath who once only knew how to heal now gains the power to identify those who harm, and, strangely, instead of becoming ruthless, they attain an uncanny precision. They do not destroy indiscriminately. They choose carefully. They know who needs healing and who must be stopped. Here, the darkness within them does not act like a bloodthirsty beast, but like a surgeon's scalpel. In the hands of a doctor, a scalpel saves lives. In the hands of a murderer, it kills. Empaths who have integrated their shadow understand this fully. They know how to wield integrated darkness as a tool of protection, not for personal revenge, but for balance. Their very presence begins to create strange effects in relationships. Manipulators feel uneasy around them, as if stripped bare without a single accusation. Those accustomed to feeding off the gentleness of others now avoid them because their eyes pierce straight to the root. But for genuine souls, they become the safest place of all. People feel protected, understood, and reminded of truths no one else dares to say. It is at this stage that the empath truly becomes the keeper of justice's scales. They can stand amid chaos without tilting to either extreme. They can hold both love and anger, both gentleness and fierceness. And, most importantly, they know when each must be used. This power makes them a threat to systems built on the silence of empaths. Society is used to having people who absorb darkness to preserve harmony, but when empaths no longer play the role of container, the games of power begin to crumble. Manipulators lose their targets, narcissists lose their mirrors, and the old order, where darkness was tolerated, begins to fracture. From here, the empath is no longer merely the healer. They become the guardian of the threshold, the protector of truth, and at times the darkness of darkness, using the very force that once tormented them to prevent it from spreading. And this is no longer just a personal story. It is a societal turning point. When empaths awaken, the balance of power in the community changes. The journey of the empath, from pure light to the moment of confronting darkness, then breaking open and being reborn, has never been an easy road. It is like an ancient ritual arranged by the unconscious. To become whole, you must give up illusions, abandon the image of the endless savior, and dare to face the most frightening parts of yourself. Carl Jung once said, "Wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the opposites." An empath who has passed through this journey is the living embodiment of that truth. They are no longer victims of manipulation, no longer an endless energy supply for narcissists. They have become souls forged in fire, able to love and protect, to heal and to halt destruction. And it is in this moment that their true power is revealed. They do not need to shout to prove themselves or to take revenge. With presence alone, they make manipulators falter. With silence alone, they force deceivers to face the truth. And with love, rooted in boundaries, they show the world that kindness is not submission, but a conscious choice. Yet this journey carries meaning beyond the personal. It is also a warning to society that systems built on exploiting empaths cannot endure. When the gatekeepers of the soul awaken, the world is forced to change. No one will agree to play the role of emotional landfill. No one will consent to being drained under the name of love. And no one can keep building their happiness on the endless sacrifices of another. The world needs empaths who have become whole, not to carry every wound of humanity, but to serve as lighthouses, showing that light and darkness need not cancel each other out, that true love always walks hand in hand with strength, and that freedom, comes only when we dare to face the shadow within ourselves. If you are walking this path, remember, you are not alone. Every sign you feel, fatigue, anger, confusion, is not failure but a beginning. The beginning of a self more whole, stronger and truer than ever before. Do not fear the darkness, for it is the missing piece that will make you complete. Stay until the end. Let this message sink into you, and if you find value in this journey, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell. This is not just a video, this is a collective journey, where empaths like you are learning to rise, no longer as victims, but as those who hold the scales of justice for themselves and for the world.